Damn. Okay, yeah, we like Johnny, for all his bumbling ways with the internet and everything related to it, he definitely he definitely got, at least got down the marketing aspect of like really catching someone's attention, like, like with all the sparks and all the aggression and everything and the fire. Yeah, it was definitely a lot more showy and more intense, for sure. And like, overshadowed everything that came before it. So good job on that, I guess. It was so embarrassing. Again with them. Cobra cut, Cobra cut. Okay. I did feel like, I'm not sure about this because I don't know what time this is supposed to be, but I definitely felt like the internet was more like, because everything else looked so old, and I was just like, I don't think that's how it works. The whole Wi-Fi thing. I don't believe that he would just be able to set it up on his own if he doesn't even know how to, start up his own computer, his own laptop. Like, okay, I don't know. Maybe he got some help from someone. We have a very established, very separate two schools of thought. More than thought here. Less than thought, I guess. And Daniel was just not making a good showing of it. Like, oh my god, I cringed so bad when he was like, okay, there's a paintbrush. And that's a fancy, it needs some coating. Like, no, you don't just say that to someone who comes over to you. And like, you promise them, free lessons, and then you're just like, okay, now you're gonna paint, like, fix up my yard. Like, no. So bad. I don't know how you can actually do that. I'm thinking even, asking for some money might even be better than offering it for free and then just coming across as a total exploiter. Like, I don't know. Like, you definitely can't start with it though. That's for sure. I mean, it's funny because it's like Daniel is so in his elements, and he's like, that's exactly what Miyagi did to him, and he knows it works, and that's what he did to Robbie too. Like, because when it's like one-on-one, then it's very different than offering it to a wider audience and being like, okay, all of you now come here and start working on my yard. Like, that's just not how it works. I don't know how you can really turn that into a bigger thing. Because you have to earn the trust of your students in some way. Like, you have to show, like, also there's no alternative. Like, for him with Miyagi and for Robbie with him, it was just like this. It was a totally different relationship. So they do, like, you can kind of expect the kind of like patience in some way that you can't expect from just people, strangers off the street coming to your dojo. Also Robbie was like working for him, so it was a different kind of relationship. Like, I mean, okay, he wasn't working that particular moment, but like he was being paid by him in some degree. So like, maybe that's even worse. They were just like, okay, now you're gonna clean up my yard or something. But like, yeah, it's very different. And Robbie was in a different, like, he's, he was asking for a favor in some way to be taught this. And so it makes sense that you would kind of go along with something for a while until you realize, oh, that's how it works. Like, like, I wasn't being exploited, actually. But it's so bad, and I honestly don't know how he's going to, be able to overcome that kind of problem, because it's not something you can just market. And also, it's a different time. I think that's also the point, that it's, that when he was young with Miyagi, it was different. Like, people were less, I guess, boundaries were less clear, I think, and the whole relationship, like the whole way of doing things was different. Anyway, that was a flop. The whole cultural appropriation thing. It's interesting that they brought it up, like, because I'm sure that the movies were also, in recent years, probably got some kind of like, oh, it's so outdated. Like, look, you know, there's so much cultural appropriation there and stereotypes about Miyagi for sure. Like, people are complaining about that for sure. So anyway, so they brought it up and they actually like put it in their show. But I don't know exactly what they're doing with that. Like, they just kind of, you know, they just brought it up and then kind of were like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, we're not really dealing with that. And the conversation with Miguel was really like, you know, when Johnny really came clean about how he feels about his son and stuff, like, it was really honest, and it was really, like, I can see how it would, you know, assuage like Miguel's like worries and stuff, and but in some way he was just kind of using, you know, his own failure to kind of, like, I think he was kind of, you know, kind of aiming for sympathy. It felt like maybe he didn't mean it that way, but it just feels like, oh, like, you know, Miguel was like, oh, it's private, you don't have to tell me. Like, you know, he feels uncomfortable and like, oh, this really pains you. I don't want to, like, obviously I'm not going to like press or anything anymore. Like, you know, I'm just gonna like, yeah, just, yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Like, we don't have to talk about this anymore or something. That's how it felt like. And I mean, Johnny meant it as like, yeah, you know, I really failed that guy, but now I'm going to, you know, I don't want to do the same to you. I'm going to, like, I promise that I'm on your side and stuff like that. But I don't know if it really answers the you know, because it feels to me like, you know, he's kind of saying like, you know, I really failed Robbie every day of his life. So I really feel guilty about it. And I'm trying to look out for him in some ways as much as I can, you know. But maybe it was him also talking to himself. I mean, like, you know, I'm not going to put Robbie on, like, I'm not going to, like, treat him differently. I'm going to be fair about this, you know, and he's my son, but he's not my student. And so, you know, I need to look out for my students and stuff. So, like, he's kind of making it clear to himself, too, in some way. But I did feel like it was, you know, when he said, like, I'm always on your side and I'm, like, you know, I'm looking out for you, basically. Like, it felt to me like it was particularly, you know, meant for Miguel. Like, I don't feel like he really feels that for everyone in his dojo. I mean, it makes sense, but it's just like, you know, Hawk, for instance, like, what, Miguel's going to tell him, oh, it's fine, you know. I don't know, like, is he going to tell him the whole conversation or what? Because it wasn't like a conversation that was made to everyone in the dojo. It was made just to Miguel, and I mean, not even everyone in the dojo, because both Hawk and Miguel, you know, went over to and asked this question, and like, not only them, like, I think Aisha also knows that, you know, Robbie's, was it Aisha there? Maybe Aisha wasn't there. So they know. So, like, do they get any answer about that, or is Miguel just going to, like, pass on the information and be like, you know, I settled this with the sensei, with our sensei, he's fine. You know, he's not, he promised that he, you know, is not looking out for Robbie, or like, we're, you know, like, we are what he cares about and stuff. I guess with a demonstration right in front of Robbie's face, he pretty much, like, showed exactly whose side is on, you know, and stuff. But, and also at the very base of it, I think that it is like the reason he got mad wasn't just because it was his son that was being hurt, but he definitely drove the point in because it was his son. It was like, oh shit, you know, like, there was definitely a meaning to it that it was his son that was being hurt that way. But it's true that it's not only that, because he knew that from his own, you know, he knew it was a thing that he, you know, balked at from his own tournament with Daniel, you know. Like, he knew that was the thing that he didn't want in his dojo. So he definitely does have, like, it's definitely not only because Robbie was on the receiving end of it, but if Robbie had not been the one on the receiving end of it, I'd like to think that he would still be mad in the same way, but I don't know. Like, maybe not to the same degree, but still, you know, I mean, yeah. So, you know, it's mixed, but sure. And then we have the whole thing with Kreese saying that they're going to get Robbie to be trained. Why? What? What exactly are you planning? How are you going to do that? I don't even want to know. Seriously, Kreese, I just, ugh. I do wonder what, you know, Dennis is going to do, but that was a, you know, that was a defeat. No two ways about it. It was just plain a loss. This time. And like, I mean, just the sheer numbers, just the fact that he has 2 students barely, one of which is his daughter, like, and one of whom is his daughter. And, you know, and Johnny already has so many pupils and already won a tournament. Like, you can compete with that. It's just, I mean, I guess by saying that it's free is how you competed with that, or try to. Anyway, interesting, you know, development on all counts. I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Special thanks to my top Patreons: Redding Tier, Andy Plays All Night, Tyranor, Michael Gabriel, Shadows Moon, and Marsh. And to the rest of my amazing Patreons, who without their support I would never be able to keep on doing this. Thank you so much.